The Nigerian economy is still saddled with effects of the shocks of the first quarter of 2016, which led to a contraction in output arising from energy shortages, high electricity tariff, price hikes, scarcity of foreign exchange, and depressed consumer demand, among others. Whereas the influence and persistence of some of the factors waned in the second quarter, it is unlikely that the economy rebounded strongly in the second quarter as setbacks in the energy sector continued, owing mainly to vandalism of oil installations. In addition, the implementation of the 2016 budget in the second quarter remained slower than expected in the second quarter. They concluded that most of the conditions undermining domestic output growth were outside the direct purview of monetary policy. It hopes that the regulation in the downstream petroleum sector and the liberalization of the foreign exchange market would help bring about the much needed relief to the economy. Data from the National Bureau of Statistics indicate that domestic output in the first quarter of 2016 contracted by 0.36%, the first negative growth in many years. This represented a decline of 2.47 percentage points in output from 2.11% reported in the fourth quarter of 2015 and 4.32 percentage points lower than the 3.9% recorded in the corresponding period of 2015. Aggregate output contracted in virtually all sectors of the economy, with the non-oil sector recording a decline of about 0.18% compared with the 3.14% expansion in the preceding quarter. Agriculture and trade were the only sectors with positive growth at 0.6% and 0.4% respectively, whereas industry, construction and services contracted by 0.93, 0.26 and 0.08 percentage points respectively. Committee noted a further rise in year-on-year headline inflation to 16.48% in June 2016 from 15.58% in May, 13.72% in April, 12.77% in March, and 11.38% in February. The increase in headline inflation in June reflected increases in both food and core components of inflation. Core inflation rose sharply for the fourth time in a row to 16.22% in June from 15.05% in May, 13.35% in April, 12.17% in March, and 11% in February, and 8.80% in January, having stayed at 8.7% for 3 consecutive months through December 2015. Food inflation also rose to 15.30% in June, from 14.86% in May, 13.19% in April, 12.74% in March, 11.35% in February, 10.64% in January, and 10.59% in December 2015. The rising inflationary pressures was largely a reflection of structural factors, including high cost of electricity, high transportation costs, high cost of inputs, low industrial activities, as well as higher prices of both domestic and imported food products. The Monetary Policy Committee expressed strong support for the urgent diversification of the economy away from oil to manufacturing, agriculture, and services, and called on all stakeholders to increase investment in growth-stimulating and high employment elasticity sectors of the economy in order to lift the economy out of its current phase. Monetary, credit, and financial markets development. Broad money supply M2 grew by 8.26% in June 2016, a 4.80 percentage points increase from 3.46% in May, compared with 0.54% contraction in June 2015. When annualized, M2 grew by 15.52% in June 2016 against the provisional growth benchmark of 10.98% of 2016. Net domestic credit (NDC) grew by 12.52% in the same period and annualized at 25.04%. At this rate, the growth rate of the net domestic credit exceeded the provisional benchmark of 17.94% for 2016. There was no change in the level of banking sector net credit to government in June, contracting by 31.45% growth in May. Credit to the private sector grew by 14.45% in June 2016, which analyzes to a growth of 28.90%, outperforming the benchmark growth of 13.38% for the year. The Monetary Policy Committee expressed cautious satisfaction over the improved performance of credit to the private sector and urged the bank to ensure that the tempo is sustained in order to stimulate recovery of output growth. The MPC noted that the level of money market interest rates largely reflected the liquidity situation in the banking system during the review period. Average interbank core rate, which stood at 20% on 17th of June 2016, closed at 50% on July 15, 2016. The increase was attributed in part to the newly introduced foreign exchange framework and the mop-up of Naira liquidity due to increased sale of foreign exchange by the CBN during the period. Generally, the period under review witnessed a decline in volume of activity in the interbank market owing to injections by the FAC and maturity of some CBN securities. The MPC also noted the decline in the indices of equity segment of the capital market. The all-share index declined by 6.55% from 29,597.79 on June 30, 2016 to 27,659.44 on July 22, 2016. Similarly, market capitalization declined by 6.26% from 10.17 trillion naira to 9.50 trillion naira during the same period, and relative to end of December 2015, the indices fell by 3.43% and 3.55% respectively. Globally, however, the equities market remained generally bearish in the aftermath of the Brexit vote. The external sector developments. The MPC noted the actions taken by the bank as part of the implementation of the flexible foreign exchange market regime decided at its meeting in May, which was designed to improve liquidity and stabilize the foreign exchange market. The bank introduced a flexible exchange rate regime in the interbank, introduced a Naira-settled over-the-counter FMDQ OTC trading platform, adopted two-way quote trading platform at the interbank foreign exchange market, and appointed foreign exchange primary dealers. However, the average Naira exchange rate weakened at the interbank segment of the foreign exchange market during the review period following the liberalization of the market. The exchange rate at the interbank market opened at 197 naira to the dollar and closed at 292 naira to the dollar, with a daily average of 244.95 naira to the dollar between May 25 and July 19, 2016. The initial weakness was attributable to the normal market reactions to a new regulatory reform. The MPC reaffirmed its commitment to its statutory mandate of achieving a stable Naira exchange rate. The Monetary Policy Committee's considerations. The Monetary Policy Committee recognized the weak macroeconomic environment as reflected particularly in increasing inflationary pressures and contraction in real output growth. In view of this, the MPC underscored the imperative of coordinated action anchored by fiscal policy to initiate recovery at the earliest possible time. Members called on the federal government to fast-track the implementation of the 2016 budget